Well, hello everyone, a big welcome whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on 3AW Football Podcast. This is our pre-season footy preview, live here from Marvel Stadium with the 2026 season not too far away. And look who we've dragged out of their summer slumber, none other than the great Caroline Wilson and Matthew Lloyd. Are
Hello,
we ready?
Anthony.
Are we ready, Caro?
Are we ready? There is so much to talk about.
Yes.
There's been so many big stories over the summer, as many as I can remember. Not all of them good ones.
No.
In fact, most of them pretty scandalous, actually, Anthony. So, of course, we're ready.
What about from a footy side of things, Lloyd? Are you ready?
Yeah, just about. I'm still making hundreds and fifties in local cricket, Hutto, but I'm just about there, ready to go. But yeah, I look forward to hearing what Caro's thoughts are on the off-season and things. But on field, yeah, I think let's hope we get a more even year. The best sides were pretty good, but we had a lot of poor sides last year, and hopefully the gap can be bridged on that a little bit.
We'll get to that shortly. Caro, you talked about the off-season, but particularly uncertainty still surrounding Andrew Dillon and those at AFL House. Where's it sit at the moment?
Well, I think Andrew Dillon's leadership has been diminished by a number of factors. I think his failure to actually move in an official head of football, which is what he tried to do when he brought in Greg Swan to really replace Laura Kane. But it was a wishy-washy appointment, wasn't it? Because he announced that he was going to split the two roles. Laura Kane never really accepted that she had been demoted. She wasn't happy. There's one view that Greg Swan tried to work with her, has become frustrated. I still don't think that relationship is working all that well. I think that frustration with the way the AFL have been treating some of their people is the reason Melbourne capitalised and got Ned Guy to move out of the AFL and go and be their head of footy. And then, of course, the removal of Jude Donnelly, who was not an executive, but a much loved and popular and well-known corporate communications executive, largely involving government. The way that was handled and covered up and then exposed in the Herald Sun was so embarrassing for Andrew Dillon. I mean, to read that your CEO is meeting a staffer, a much-loved staffer, who was one of his closest allies, in a coffee shop in Hawthorn, becoming tearful and saying, "Richard wants you gone," referring to the outgoing chairman, Richard Goyder, was such a bad look for Andrew Dillon. And I think it made him look weak. I don't know whether, maybe if Andrew Dillon had really wanted to keep this particular staffer, he would have. But, that's another woman out the building. After Tanya Hosh last year, Laura Kane demoted. We hear the head of HR, People and Culture, is Sarah Fair, also might be in trouble. So, and I'm not sure AFLW is travelling all that swimmingly either in the way that hierarchy is working out. So still a bit of tension between Kane and Swan, who's come in and made all these big rule changes. Yeah. And Tom Harley's come in, but to be honest, hasn't fired a shot yet. I mean, he took a long time to resettle back in Melbourne. We sort of thought he was starting September, October, but...
Does Andrew Dillon need him to become a second face of the competition? Someone who's a bit more natural speaker, I suppose.
I can't believe we haven't seen Tom Harley already. I'm sure that will happen. Yeah. There was even a view from some of the dissenting outsiders in the game who are still very influential and once held positions of power that they should just cut to the chase and bring Brendan Gale in, which they should have done a few years ago. This is not me saying that. That's what people are saying. I don't think that will happen. But I think that Craig Drummond, the new AFL chairman, will support Andrew Dillon. But I think his leadership's been tarnished. It was tarnished from the time Richard Goyder took so long to appoint him. And I don't think he's ever really got his feet properly under the desk.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's since the departure of Gill, really, it's just been a really slow process to get to here, Lloydie. Yeah. And I suppose a lot rests on the first 3 or 4 months of this season. If these rule changes are implemented well and everything else flows, then I guess they can put it behind them pretty quickly.
I obviously don't know. Obviously, it's great listening to Caro on some of the details there, but I just feel like it's very hard to thrive in at the AFL. I don't feel that you can ever get in and sink your teeth into a role. There's like a chain of command, and whether you're running the tribunal, are you fully to just come in and do what you want? Whether it's, I understand why Brendan Gale might say no, because if he's not really coming in to be able to stamp his authority and do what he needs to do. You go, you know what, I'd be better off being CEO of Richmond or being CEO of Tasmania. That's what I feel like people don't come in and enhance themselves in at the AFL.
That's true. It hasn't been. It has not been a good career motivator for many people. I think the Laura Kane problem has become a big problem because this is a smart, extremely talented young woman who clearly got a job that she was not quite ready for, to be brutal, and did not get a lot of it was unconscious bias. I do think there was some sexism involved, but in the end, she couldn't manage down with the clubs. She did not build the relationships she should have, and the fact that there's still a demarcation dispute and we're almost in March is a real worry. And look, I don't think Gillan McLachlan did Andrew Dillon any favours by taking so long to go.
No, that was it was odd the whole way that transition happened. On a broader scale, then, like the counter argument is that all the metrics and the money coming in and the attendances, TV ratings are all still very strong, and the game is still growing. And yet you sort of see rugby league and what Peter V'landys has done there, and arguments about where the game is going in the north and so forth. So where do you think that sits as a counter? I suppose as a counter argument, and just the general health of the game when you're referring to the leadership at AFL headquarters. The
game is obviously incredibly healthy. I hate what they've done with Saturday football, and no amount of money. I know you're a Fox footy man, but I just. You talk to the elderly, you talk to people in homes, you talk to people who can't afford pay TV, and KO subscriptions have gone up again. I think losing Saturdays has been a cultural shift for a lot of people who love the game. I mean, you go back to that period, that real black period for the AFL in May last year, when there was all the stuff going on with Willie Rioli and the AFL's failure to handle that. All the stuff going on with the Lockie Schultz concussion. There was a
very
lot
messy.
And the Ken Hinkley fine, which was the previous year, compared to the Jason McCartney fine. I mean, there was so many legal issues and on-field legal and judicial issues that they failed at, and that's what people care about, Anthony. And you're right. If the new rules work well, and if the teams who've been fixed here to play Thursday and Friday night actually perform, which has been a massive problem, both for Channel 7 and also for the AFL, particularly Friday nights, then that's not going to be a big problem for them. And if the footy's good, you're absolutely right. It won't be as much of an issue. But I think it's been a really tough couple of years for Andrew Dillon.
Caro thrives on it though, doesn't she, Lloydie?
No, well, I do too, in a sense. After being around Caro on Footy Classified for many years, it's what it is.
It's always been the case, hasn't it? Really?
But I think, I believe that Tom Harley's a great football person.
He is,
and so
you bring a national perspective to it.
He will, and I just hope they give him a good chance. I think we've got a great game still. You're right. The finals come around, and the quality of the football goes through the roof. Players are getting paid more than they've ever been paid before. As long as we don't lose touch with the fan, I think we've still got a great game.
Although not enough, according to Lee Matthews. He still thinks players are grossly underpaid for what they deliver.
The average is $550 now, $550,000, which is
getting up towards your kind of area, Lloydie.
Yeah, well, nearly when I was one of the better players in the game. So unfortunately, so good luck to them though. They deserve what they get because you're not in it for a long time.
So what about the rule changes then, and what to expect?
Well, it's hard to know because what I'll say is these coaches, they're ahead of the rules in a sense. Like there's 8 to 10 coaches at every club, and they keep trying to find loopholes in everything. So that's what the AFL is forever chasing their tail with. I'm excited about the last touch out of bounds because I just feel like just keeps the game flowing and moving, and I hate the ball ups and the repeat stoppages and all those sorts of things. How it changes the way rucks are used and all that. I don't think there's that many effective ruckmen in the game anyway. So
I know of a few coaches who don't have the highest respect, but we're potentially
will there be a second ruck now more often, or certainly clubs will be recruiting?
I don't know, because as I said, maybe you're right, Caro, but there's not too many. Each club can only hold one good one on a list. So
it feels like it probably at the moment anyway. And Caro, you were with me last night chatting with one of the clubs. Maybe it just depends on what your list is as to how you're going to use that extra player.
But I think it's going to be fast moving, and I think that's why you hear over the off season, everyone's saying we need to move the ball faster. We need to. So I think because it's going to be hard to hold teams up, and that's what Brisbane do better than anyone when they get a chance, an opportunity. I was able to spend an hour with Chris Fagan. I just went to watch training one day, and they come up to me and said, "Do you want to spend time staying in the middle with Chris Fagan?" And it was an amazing hour that I got to spend.
Tell us about it
with Chris, and just the license that he gives his players. And the drills are very much up and down, fast paced. No cones out there. It's pretty much go and giving his team and the team that he's got a license to move the ball at will. And that's what I think they left Geelong in their wake in that regard in the third quarter. Geelong were running on the spot, and Brisbane just the power that they move the ball with, and no mistakes. A bad mistake, Chris just lets them go, and he says, "Dane, if you want to take that kick, you take it." And now I think you hear Collingwood are saying we need to be bolder with the footy. Sydney are saying we need to be bolder. So I think it's going to be a pretty exciting year of football when you chase the best team in the comp who play that way.
Yeah. Well, Greg Swan's just come back from the Super Bowl. I don't know where he's going to bring Bad Bunny to Australia or what the changes will be. Do you think what sort of impact on the game do you think it'll have? And is the future of the game just to keep it, trying to get it as fast as possible? How fast can we have it?
I know Alistair Clarkson, when he was at his best at Hawthorn, he'd go and watch 4 different clubs for a week, and he'd come back with 15 ideas, and some of them were laughed at, and then 2 or 3 would land, and it helped him be a 3-time premiership coach in 3 years at that period. So you may as well have a go and have a crack. We don't want to become America and try and bring everything back to what they've done, but you're crazy just to sit on your hands and do the same thing over and over.
Yeah, everyone loves a junket trip to the Super Bowl.
Well, the head of football in the biggest sporting organisation in Australia, of course he should go to the Super Bowl. Yeah. Don't you think? You're not begrudging him.
No, not at all. No,
it was just his jealousy, wasn't it?
I think we should have gone and broadcasted it personally. But Caro, where else are we looking? I suppose from the off-field intrigue, maybe at clubs, or where do you think that the pressure is going to be on as the season goes on?
Look, I'm interested in what's going on at North Melbourne. I see that Sonia Hood tried to extend her tenure, change the constitution to remain chairman at North for a bit longer. I think she narrowly lost that attempt. I fear for North Melbourne. I can't see Alistair Clarkson probably going on beyond this year. I know he's contracted for another year. Well, I certainly don't think it's a certainty he'll be there to end his contract. He's talking about changing his game plan. I mean, they've been terrible for so long, Anthony. They last won 2 games in a row in 23. They've had so many draft concessions, and they haven't been able to. That hasn't changed anything. So North clearly under pressure. Obviously St Kilda, with all their whinging and whining and complaining about everything and blaming everyone else for all their problems. I think they need to have a good year, and I love what they've done, and I admire that they've been bold. But I think they should stop complaining and pointing the finger at others. I mean, to hear Chris Fagan actually come out and have a crack at St Kilda, and I see they had a crack back, so that's good. But very rare for Chris Fagan. The unwritten rule for a coach like him is never talk about another club. Interesting. Essendon have finally appointed a CEO. Untried Tim Roberts. Who was on the board, and obviously they'd tried a few others, but now they've gone for a board member who obviously has never worked at a footy club apart from being a board member. We all think Andrew Welsh is making the right noises, but gee, Essendon, you just wonder about how that's going to all go down.
So who did they miss out on? Do we hear Justin Rodsky from the Storm, Travis Old?
Yep. I mean, I didn't think Travis Old would probably ever leave running an organisation to go back to running a club. But I was surprised that Justin Rodsky
I was a little too.
knocked them back. I thought that was over the line. I don't know what actually went on there. Should find out before we go to air with 3AW football in round 1, in
Big
opening round.
I'm sure you will, Caro.
For Vossy.
Well, yeah, I'm sort of. I think we're sort of almost past that now. I can't see it. Can't see it working for Michael Voss. But
what would save him then? Do you think, like playing finals and that would that save him?
Yeah, got to make the 8.
Yeah, it's not the 8 anymore, Caro, isn't it?
No, but I think he's got to make the 8.
Right.
I'm not convinced that the Bulldogs have gone the right way in re-signing Luke Beveridge. I'd love to see, and you mentioned we were with a club. I mean, we spent time with GWS. They really need to finish top 4. and just maybe get it done. I mean, we talked about this when we were with them, but to think that Gold Coast could now, after all GWS's success, beat them to a flag must be so galling. Fremantle too really need to have a good year. I think they're under a lot of pressure.
But when you start listing them off, it's probably lucky there is a top 10 for the teams to make
high quality side. So I did think that down the bottom we've touched on a few that are going to struggle, but that.
Adelaide and Sydney and Hawthorn. I'm not so mad on Collingwood. Brisbane, obviously, Geelong. I don't think Richmond's under any pressure. I think there's still a lot of goodwill towards what they're trying to do. But, that'll only last a couple of years. Port Adelaide, I think Josh Carr will have a honeymoon year.
Stephen King the same.
Yeah. Completely.
Yep.
Yeah, going to be tough for the D's, I think, but we'll talk about that elsewhere. All right, that's it for this little portion of 3AW Footy Preview for season 2026. Thanks to Lloydie and Caro for joining us today. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our brand new 3AW Football YouTube channel. It's going to be a sensation in 2026.